Welcome back to the show. On today's episode, I tell you who my GOAT of the NBA is, plus preview the Central Division and Atlantic Division over/under win totals. That's all coming up and more on today's episode of the Take Your Shot podcast. Welcome back to today's episode, and on this very special day, this fantastic Friday, I am going to tell you who I think is the greatest player of all time in our basketball game. I've been holding off this episode for a while because I wanted to do it in the offseason because, of course, the NBA in the regular season, in the postseason, filled with so much joy, so much to talk about. So I wanted to save it for the offseason. I felt like this was the perfect episode to do it. So I'm going to give you my GOAT, my reasons behind the GOAT, because I'm not just going to tell you who I think is the greatest. I'm going to tell you why he is the greatest over the other player. So let's start with the factors that I consider when picking my greatest of all time. There's a couple of factors. Number one, finals record. That is definitely a factor that I take. When you make the finals, it's the last series. It is the last chance, the last opportunity to go out and show you're an NBA champion. I take finals records very seriously. That is one of the top factors when I think of the GOAT. Finals record, championships, of course. Second, I think of scoring prowess. Who, of course, has scored more, played their imprint on the basket, who has dominated games wire to wire throughout their entire careers. Third, I think of defensive prowess. I'm a defensive kind of a guy. Basketball has two sides to the ball. It's not just offense, even though we only talk about offensive statistics. I take pride in defense, and I think the greatest of all time should be great, should be the best at both sides of the ball, not just one. Then next, I have global influence. This is the game of basketball. This is a global sport. Whoever is watched more clearly made a more impact. Who changed the game the most? Who is the one that led to more people watching, and not just the United States, but the entire world? When you show your face in the smallest country, are they going to recognize you more than the other person? I think that is important because that shows who has impacted the game of basketball the most. Then I have competitiveness and mentality. Of course, both of these gentlemen, LeBron James and Michael Jordan, who are my two finalists and most people's top two of all time. I think competitiveness and mentality is very important. Both of these guys both have that aspect. That is why they are great. That is why LeBron has his longevity. That's why Michael Jordan, even when he left to play baseball, still was great the second he returned. That is because of their competitiveness, their willingness to work. So that is definitely a factor there. Legacy, of course, and dominance. I think that dominance is important here too, because if you're the GOAT, you have to dominate an era. Like, you can't just win 1 year here, then, maybe win two more later on, maybe one in the middle. You need to dominate a specific period of time. When we think of those years, when we think of the 2010s or we think of the 1990s, we have to think about that specific player and probably that specific player only. Then the intangibles, the clutchness, the iconic moments. Those, again, are going to be the things remembered. Again, I get talent is a pretty big factor here, but the GOAT conversation is part to impact, to legacy. Going back to what I said before, who had more iconic moments, more iconic plays, more iconic game winners? That is also a factor as well. So those are all the things, in my opinion. You can obviously be different because you are entitled to your own opinion. But in my opinion, that is what I think, of course, makes the GOAT of basketball. Of course, you have to have other talent. Of course, you have to win. Of course, you have to be in the league for a very long time and do it at a high level at a consistent basis. But those are some other factors that you really have to consider when narrowing down between two incredible players in LeBron James and Michael Jordan. With that being said, what you have been waiting for, I have been thinking about this for a while now, about maybe potentially changing it, maybe leaving it where I am. It's really tough because both are such great basketball players. Both have made legacies, made marks for the game of basketball. But I'm going to tell you that my GOAT is Michael Jordan. And to be someone in Generation Z, a younger generation, to say that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time, that's rare. A lot of people have that recency bias saying LeBron James. And don't get me wrong, how can I blame you? You didn't see Michael Jordan. When you grew up, you only saw LeBron James and you were like, oh, LeBron James is incredible, won 4 NBA titles, all-time leading scorer. That is what you saw. You did not see Michael Jordan. So can I really blame you? But for someone like me, who I feel like has a lot of basketball knowledge, someone who really analyzes the game closely, I think that Michael Jordan is my GOAT. And I'm going to tell you, from all the 7 things I listed that I consider for being a GOAT, I'm going to tell you why Michael Jordan is better at each and every one. And he may not be better at each and every single one. LeBron's the all-time scorer. I can't say Michael Jordan is. It's pretty clear on paper that LeBron James is the greatest scorer of all time. I can't really tell you that, but I'm going to tell you reasons why maybe that Jordan was more consistent in more years than LeBron, but I can't tell you what is put on paper already. That is undisputable, and I think that is personally wrong. You have to look at the stats, but you can also look at other factors as well. So I'm going to start with, of course, the perfect finals record with Michael Jordan. LeBron James has made it to way more finals. I get that. 11 NBA finals at one point from 2011 to 2018. He made 8 straight NBA finals. What NBA player does that? That is absolutely absurd. And again, to defend LeBron James here, 2015, 2017, 2018, especially 2017, 2018, against that dynasty Warrior squad. I mean, did Michael Jordan ever play that much talent on one single team? Probably not. It's a little bit closer than the most people, the general public, thinks, because Michael Jordan did play against some very talented teams in the finals. That 93 Suns team was elite. Those Jazz teams, 2 Hall of Famers, Karl Malone and John Stockton, elite. But those 2017, 2018 Warrior teams, you can't really blame LeBron for those final losses. But back to Michael Jordan. He made the finals 6 times. He had to get through what was also a great team in the Bad Boy Pistons: Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Bill Laimbeer. The Pistons were the team in the Eastern Conference to beat. After the Pistons, the Bad Boys, beat the Boston Celtics, the Pistons were now the team. They had won 2 NBA titles back-to-back in a row and lost one the year prior. They won the 2 championships to the Lakers. So the Pistons were pretty much setting themselves as the team in the Eastern Conference. And Michael Jordan had to get past that. It took him a while to actually make the NBA Finals. Remember, he got drafted in 1984. His first NBA title wasn't until 1991. 7 years is a while, but LeBron, 2003, 2011, not even 2011, 2012, excuse me. Same argument there. So you can't really say anything about Michael Jordan having to take some time to go to the NBA Finals. But Jordan, 6 NBA Finals. Most of you already know this. Perfect. Michael Jordan did not lose in the biggest moment. LeBron, 2011, probably should have won that finals against the Mavericks with the Heat Big Three. We're the better team. Probably should have won that one, and LeBron James did not show up in 2011 against the Dallas Mavericks. 2013, they won the title. LeBron was amazing, but it took a Ray Allen shot in Game 6 to get them to overtime. And trust me, that Spurs team was tough. I know. And that was a great finals for LeBron. Obviously, he was incredible in that Game 7 and probably is his second best NBA title on his resume. But it took a Ray Allen shot. 2016, I know, again, LeBron was at his peak. Coming back from a 3-1 deficit is something that Michael Jordan cannot say he has done. But who had the ball at the end of the game? It was Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving hit the shot. But of course, the Cavs won the title. LeBron won another title. I'm just laying out the facts here. I'm not saying anything's wrong with LeBron James giving up the shots. I'm just laying down the facts here. Jordan in 1998 was the one to take the shot. Jordan had all the key moments. He made the game-winning assists. He made the game-winning shots. He had the game-winning steals. That was who Michael Jordan was, and he never lost in the biggest moment. LeBron lost a lot of NBA finals. Lost 7. 4 and 7 in the NBA finals, which means he's lost more than he has won. And it's not easy to win the NBA finals. You're going up against the best team in the other conference. It's not easy. But again, Michael Jordan never lost. And don't forget 2020, a bubble, LeBron's 4th title. He won it. It was tough to win in the bubble. But again, it's a different situation. No home court advantage. The circumstances are different. I'm not putting an asterisk on it. I'm just laying out the facts. And if I don't say anything that is 100% accurate, you can comment, you can DM me. But what I am saying is 100% accurate. I am not hating on LeBron right now. I am just saying the facts. So you can't really beat 6-0 in the NBA Finals. That is absolute dominance there, and 2 3-peats. Next, what I talked about was scoring prowess. I said it earlier. LeBron James is the all-time leading scorer. There is no dispute about that. He did that in 2023 against the Oklahoma City Thunder on January with this iconic fadeaway shot, and that is undisputed. LeBron James, the longevity of his scoring has just been something really that the league has never seen, and the league probably won't see for maybe ever, or for at least a long time, at the minimum 20, 30 years. But individual seasons, dominating a season in scoring, being the best in winning scoring titles. Jordan won 10. He led the league in scoring in every full season that he played with the Chicago Bulls. Every full season that Jordan showed up, dressed up, he was the leading scorer. He retired with a career average of 30 points per game. LeBron, 1 scoring title. He finished with an average of 27.2 points per game. Not finished, of course. LeBron James is still playing, and he's still going to add to that. But LeBron has a lower career average. Michael Jordan does have more scoring titles than LeBron as well. And he really just dominated for years and years and years. And you could say LeBron every single year, maybe wasn't the best offensive player, but one of the top. But with Michael Jordan, you could solidify every single season that he was the best scorer in the league. No disputes, no argument necessary. Number 3, I talked about defensive prowess because I think defense is very important when deciding who the NBA GOAT is. And LeBron James has never won a Defensive Player of the Year. He's made defensive all-first teams. He has had the most iconic defensive play in maybe NBA history with his block on Andre Iguodala in Game 7 in the 2016 NBA Finals. Iconic moment. But I'm sorry. Someone did not play better defense than Michael Jordan in the 1990s. LeBron James is that someone. He did not play better defense than Michael Jordan. In the 1990s, there was actual defense being played in the games. There was way more defense, way less scoring in the 1990s than there are at this current present in the 2010s. That is not arguable. Michael Jordan, compared to LeBron's 6 all-NBA defense first teams, made it 9 times. He was actually a Defensive Player of the Year in 1988. It would help if LeBron had that award, but he doesn't. Michael Jordan could not only score, not only be the most offensive dominant player, but be a defensive pest. He worked on defense. He didn't take breaks on defense. You could tell watching his films, watching his prior games on YouTube, of course, because I couldn't watch it live. You could tell he was hungry on defense. He got a lot of steals. He made clutch plays as well. So don't forget about defense because, again, basketball, as I mentioned, two sides to it. There is an offense and there is a defense. Now, this one, number 4, is really, to me, what separates the two gentlemen. Global influence. Trust me, LeBron James has millions upon millions of Instagram followers. There was no social media back then. But I can tell you, Michael Jordan, if he was in his full prime and there was social media in the 1990s, he would have the most followers, maybe on the entire platform of Instagram. No joke. Michael Jordan could not go anywhere without being harassed. Probably LeBron James as well. But if Michael Jordan went to the tiniest island in the middle of nowhere on the earth, people would recognize him. He is an entrepreneur just like LeBron, but the Jordan brand shoe line. Everyone wears Jordans. Everyone has Jordan swag. There's no LeBron swag because Jordan was that impactful to the game. In the 1990s, after Larry Bird and Magic Johnson retired, who was next? I mean, as I mentioned, the Pistons won, but Isaiah Thomas wasn't really that figurehead. The Pistons were really a balanced team. They didn't really have a superstar. Michael Jordan was that superstar. When he scored in one of his first years against the 86 Celtics, his third year in the playoffs, when he scored 63, the most playoff points in a single game of all time. That's what Michael Jordan did in his third year against the 86 Celtics. People knew him. People knew who that guy was because he showed up against Larry Bird. He showed up against an all-time NBA basketball squad. And then he dominated in the 1990s. Championship after championship after championship, and everyone knows the name Jordan. Whether that's for the clothing line or for his talent. And LeBron's wide known in the entire globe. I get that. But he is not as big as Michael Jordan. He's just not. It is a proven fact. Number 5, competitiveness and mentality. These two gentlemen are so great at this. This is what separates the all-stars and the stars from superstars, and what separates the superstars from legends, and what separates the legends from the greatest of all time. And both of these two gentlemen are the best, along with Kobe Bryant, rest in peace to him. But Michael Jordan's drive was so good. His competitiveness was so good. You know who Kobe, who we think has the best competitiveness of all time, the best drive of all time, the Mamba mentality? You know where the Mamba mentality came from? It came from his inspiration of what Michael Jordan was doing. Kobe Bryant didn't make the Mamba mentality. It was Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Kobe worked hard because of Jordan. And I'm not taking away anything from Kobe Bryant's work ethic because he earned everything that he got. But who did he get it from? He got it from Michael Jordan. Have you seen anyone in today's era say, oh, I want to work as hard as LeBron James? No, they say I want to work as hard as Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan because they know those two were competitive. Those two worked hard. When Michael Jordan left to play baseball in the MLB and pursue his father's dream for him, and he's off doing that, comes back 1.5 years later, hasn't played a single game of basketball, not conditioned, not anything like that at all. Then the year later, just one season later, after not playing basketball for over 18 months, has the best team of all time, 72-10 with an NBA title. You're telling me only a couple of months after he just came back from baseball. He's getting 72 wins in the regular season. And how do you think that happened? It's not because Michael Jordan just said, hey, I'm coming back on the court. I'm ready to go now. No, he had to work for it. He had to work to get conditioned. He had to work to get back into basketball shape because baseball and basketball are two different sports. You need to condition. You need to work out differently for them. And Jordan utterly not only reconditioned himself to his form before he went to baseball, he looked even better after that. And that is just a props to him working hard and recovering and getting back to shape after leaving the sport for 18 months. LeBron James, high competitive player, got the basketball IQ, got the longevity. We know that LeBron James could play for another 5 years and maybe even more if you wanted to. But of course, that's probably not going to happen. But that's still a credit to LeBron's competitiveness. But when you think of Mamba mentality, when you think of the drive, the work ethic, it formed with Michael Jordan. It did. It really did. And maybe people look up to LeBron with his competitiveness and drive, but there's a reason why there was a movie named Like Mike. There was a reason why people said, I want that mentality, that Mamba mentality. That's all I got to say on that matter. Legacy and dominance is also a very important aspect of being the GOAT as well. 6 and 8 years is a lot. It's not only that. Michael Jordan left players like Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing, John Stockton, and I'm probably missing many more, ringless. He left 4 legends, Hall of Famers, ringless. Why do you think TNT makes fun of Charles Barkley being ringless? It's because of Michael Jordan. Nobody could get a ring when Michael Jordan was playing. I'm telling you that 93 Suns team would have won a championship today. The Jazz teams 97, 98 would have won NBA titles. LeBron didn't really the only person that LeBron James really stopped from getting a ring, Russell Westbrook, maybe. Jimmy Butler in 2020, maybe. But he didn't really stop anyone, per se, from getting an NBA title. Michael Jordan did. There are legends without NBA titles. While LeBron James has let Steph Curry win, has let Kevin Durant win, has let a lot of NBA players win titles. Dirk. There's so many more. Michael Jordan prevented that. The only thing that Michael Jordan did was elevate his legacy while the rest of the world mocks at Charles Barkley for not winning rings. And finally, Michael Jordan's iconic moments. When you think of the best plays of all time in an NBA setting, when you think of looking back to the history of this National Basketball Association, you look at iconic moments. That's what we all do. We love the moments that make you smile, the moments that say, oh my God, I remember that. LeBron, I mean, how many memorable moments could you really say about LeBron? Of course, that block on Iguodala, iconic. Could you really say that there is something like at the back of your head, unless you're like a super fanatic? Like if you're just a typical person, not really a diehard NBA fan, can you really say anything else at the back of your head that sticks out to LeBron's clutchness? Michael Jordan had the shot against Cleveland. Series tied 2-2, best out of 5. Chicago's down 1 in 1988. Michael doesn't hit the shot, the Bulls are going home. If he hits the shot, they're moving on. Plain and simple. Jordan drained the shot, held the follow through. And he not only had the shot, he had the last shot to win an NBA Finals. LeBron James has never taken that shot. And I'm not blaming him. It's not his fault that he hasn't. I'm just saying Michael Jordan did take that shot. In his last year with Chicago, Game 6. If they lose, Game 7's in Utah. And they may lose that finals. Michael Jordan not only hits that shot, he stole the ball first, walked up the court, crowds yelling. One thing to do, score the ball, hit the jump shot. He drains it to win his 6th NBA championship in 8 years. Probably the most iconic moment in NBA history, in my opinion. I think so. LeBron James has had great moments. He's had great playoff buzzer beaters. Remember that 2018 run? That was incredible. His team was terrible, and he made them go to the finals. That was great. 2 buzzer beaters in that run. Had a buzzer beater against Orlando in that conference finals one year. I remember all those because I'm an NBA fanatic. But for the typical guy, for the typical NBA fan who doesn't really watch that much, I remember those 2 moments. The shot against Cleveland and the game and the championship winning shot against Utah more than any other moment in NBA history. And those are the reasons for the last 27 minutes I have been doing this, why I think Michael Jeffrey Jordan is the GOAT of NBA basketball. You are all entitled to your own opinions. I am entitled to mine. Some of you may have recency bias. Some of you may have the complete opposite. Maybe watching basketball back then, but not now. But for me, evaluating both guys, I really do believe the true GOAT. And for right now, the undisputed greatest player of all time is Michael Jordan. That can still change because LeBron James is playing. Anything's subject to change because LeBron's playing. But in the situation LeBron James is now with the Los Angeles Lakers, is he going to get another chance to win a title? Is he even going to make another finals, conference finals? We don't know. So if everything ended today, at this second, at this very moment, there is no doubt in my mind who I'm picking. And that's, once again, Michael Jordan. That was a lot. That was very long. That was great. And I'm going to transition now to our over-unders for our Central and Atlantic divisions in the Eastern Conference. We did the Southeastern division a while back, but we had the schedule released, and I took a week off. And here we are now. We're going to do 2 divisions in 1 week. We'll do 1 division each for the next 3 weeks after this for the Western Conference over-under win totals. But for today, we'll do 2, and that'll be what's it for today. And we'll start in the Central Division, and we will be starting with the team that has the lowest projected amount of wins, going higher to the most, and then starting over with the Atlantic Division. And we'll start with the Detroit Pistons here, as they are projected 25.5 wins. The Pistons, of course, last season, do I call it a disaster? Do I call it a travesty? I don't really know what to call Detroit's last season, because when Monty Williams came in, I don't think people expected Detroit to lose 28 games in a row. I didn't. And yet it happened. And they decided to fire Monty Williams, and now the Detroit Pistons have hired J.B. Bickerstaff. which I think is a great hire. But I do think Monty is a great head coach, and I think he just needed time. And other than that 28 game losing streak, that rough patch, Detroit didn't really do that bad. I mean, I'm not as down as Detroit as any other team in the league. Like, I think Detroit has potential here. I think more people are down on Detroit than I am. And I'm going to, even though they had 14 wins last year, I'm going to take the over. And why would I take the over on a team that lost 28 games in a row? I'll tell you why. Because they got better. Plain and simple. It's the easiest answer I can give you. But that's why. They just got better. They signed Tobias Harris. And don't forget about Tobias Harris because of his days in Philadelphia. The dude can play. The dude can put up 20 points on a team. Tobias Harris knows how to score the basketball efficiently. That is not the problem with him. I think he had a lot of pressure in Philadelphia, and I think going back to Detroit, a place where he was before he got traded to the Clippers, then obviously traded to Philly, will be comfortable for him, and he will have an opportunity to thrive alongside Cade Cunningham. This is another year for Cade Cunningham. What is this? I think year 4 for Cunningham already. It feels like it's gone by so fast, but this will be his 4th year. He's going to have a career year. Cade Cunningham is an elite prospect. Cade Cunningham will thrive. Jaden Ivey is only going to get better. Jalen Duren is only going to get better. And then look at the pickups. They had to take on some salary, but Malik Beasley, great pickup. Had a decent role with the Milwaukee Bucks last year. Remember Simone Fontecchio averaged 15 points per game in the second half of the year for Detroit? He's coming off the bench for them this season. Expect him to have a career year. He is an elite sharpshooter. They also got Tim Hardaway Jr., who, of course, had the disappointing postseason with the Dallas Mavericks. He was acquired from Detroit in exchange for Quentin Grimes. But Tim Hardaway Jr. can put up 15 points on any given night because he is a scorer as well. Detroit got better this offseason. And don't forget about their draft pick, Ron Holland. Maybe it was a little bit of a reach, but still, Detroit is young, Detroit is bright, and expect them to have a decent season. Maybe even competing for that final play-in spot. Don't be surprised, people. I am high on Detroit. It is very possible that they could have a 35 to maybe even 40 win season. So I'm going to go over on the Detroit Pistons. Next team is the Chicago Bulls. Now, the Bulls are in a little bit of a different direction than the Detroit Pistons. Actually, even like the complete opposite, because Detroit's going uphill, in my opinion. I think they're getting younger, they're getting better, Chicago, on the other hand, just completely tear down the roster just now. They traded DeMar DeRozan. They traded Alex Caruso. Zach LaVine looks ready to walk out the door. Chicago is approaching a soon-to-be rebuild, but they still got to get rid of Vucevic. They still, of course, as I mentioned, got to get rid of Zach LaVine. And their over-under win total is 28.5. Their starting lineup right now, as it looks, Josh Giddey, who they got in exchange for Alex Caruso. I think Kobe White, yes. Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, and Nikola Vucevic. Josh Giddey is a good pickup for Chicago. Would I have liked them to get a draft pick as well with Josh Giddey in exchange for Alex Caruso? Yes, especially considering that they are rebuilding. But I like this pickup for the Chicago Bulls. I think Josh Giddey really was in a little bit of a tricky situation in Oklahoma City because of the situation with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams having a career year and going to be a potential future All-Star. Wasn't really room for him to start anymore. Couldn't really play that 3-guard game with Oklahoma City. You saw his minutes decrease in the postseason. Now he gets a fresh start in Chicago to be the starting point guard and to be that guy for this young and rebuilding Bulls team. And I think he will thrive. Maybe he'll win Most Improved Player. There is a definite possibility about that. I think Kobe White won it last year. Why not Josh Giddey this year with the Bulls? And then Kobe White, of course, as I just mentioned, coming off a career season, expect him to be better than ever. Zach LaVine, I don't know what his status is. Patrick Williams, he played great in the first half of the season, not the first half, I would say first quarter of last season before he got injured, even though Patrick Williams has been a disappointment for where Chicago actually drafted him. Patrick Williams had a great start to last season, so don't be surprised if Patrick Williams plays a lot better. But at the end of the day, Chicago is going downhill. So I'm going to take the under on the Chicago Bulls. They just don't really have a great team, especially with the loss of DeMar DeRozan, who won them a lot of games. Alex Caruso included with that, winning some games for Chicago as well. I just don't really see this Bulls team going anywhere. They only won 39 games last year. I mean, and a lot of them were due to DeMar DeRozan's fantastic performances. Can we really trust the Bulls to get to 30 wins this year? I don't. I think this is going to be the finally the year for Chicago where, just with like Atlanta, they fall off the map a little bit. Some new teams get some opportunities to go into that play-in tournament, which is what is exciting. And speaking of new up-and-coming rising teams, the Indiana Pacers are coming off a conference finals appearance against the Boston Celtics, getting swept. But now in what is, I think, year 3 for Tyrese Halliburton in Indiana, his third full year at least, he will get an opportunity now to move up the standings and not just be a 6th seed to end the regular season, potentially getting home court in the first round and putting themselves in a better position to get back to the conference finals and compete. Their over-under is 47.5. They got to 47 wins last year, so this is definitely doable for the Indiana Pacers, and I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to go over that number. It's going to be close. Trust me, it's going to be very, very close. I think it'll be 48-49, but Indiana's still going to be as good as ever. Tyrese Halliburton, as I mentioned, career year last season. Hopefully he is better because, of course, he got injured in the middle of the season. Didn't really look the same. Hopefully he is 100% healthy, ready to go for this new season, and he can play at peak form. Andrew Nembhard, I think people forgot about his impact in the conference finals. He was great. Pascal Siakam coming back, re-signing. They have him locked up long-term. This is a very young and rising team. I like their draft pick in the second round with Johnny Furphy. I mean, they're running it back. And again, I think people are going to say, oh, Indiana wasn't that great in the regular season. I mean, we're forgetting about the Pacers. Look at what the 76ers, look at what the New York Knicks did this offseason. Well, this team just made the conference finals, so we can't really forget about them. And I think they are going to remind people how good they actually are. So I'm going to take the over on the Indiana Pacers. The Cleveland Cavaliers are the next team on the list, projected to finish second in the Central Division with 48.5 wins. The Cavaliers had a somewhat of a surprising season once again last year, getting the 4th seed. I felt like some other teams would have done better than Cleveland last year, in my opinion, but they did get to 48 wins, and that is where their over-under sits. Are they going to get one higher than that? I do not think so. I'm going to take the under on the Cavaliers because they are running the same team back again. Like, I feel like if you're running a team back for the 3rd straight year, teams are going to figure you out a little bit. Like, I think people know what the vibe of the Cavaliers are. They're going to be that 4 seed range, competing there in the Eastern Conference. Not going to be that great. And maybe they fall off because maybe other teams like the Magic, the Pacers, rise up and get higher seeds. Philadelphia is obviously going to be better. Can we really trust Cleveland to get to 48 wins with the talent that this Eastern Conference has? I don't think so. I mean, there's, of course, been conflicts with if Garland and Mitchell can play together, and even if Mobley and Jared Allen can play together. So we'll see what Cleveland does on the trade market going into next season and at the trade deadline. But for now, for what I'm seeing with Cleveland, nothing really changed while the Eastern Conference is getting better. And if you're going like a straight line in a upward sloping trajectory for this conference, you're going to regress. That's how it works. And Cleveland, unfortunately for them, I have them going under. The Milwaukee Bucks are projected to finish first in the Central Division. They had a fantastic addition a couple of weeks ago, getting Gary Trent Jr., someone who I really thought is, if not the most underrated pickup in free agency, because he was an elite scorer with the Toronto Raptors and now gets the opportunity to be on a contending team. But the Bucks, of course, had a unique situation last year. We remember all the firing of Adrian Griffin, 30-11. Doc Rivers comes in. They are a 500 team to end the season. They get that first round draw against the Pacers. Giannis is out, then Dame becomes out. They lose in 6. Not surprising considering the injuries, but it was a disappointing season for the Bucks, and we do have a lot of questions for this team in the present. Can this team work together? Can Dame and Giannis play together? We don't know that answer. We really don't. And Doc Rivers, at least now, is going to have a training camp. He's going to have a full season. So we are going to see now. This is going to be this version of the Milwaukee Bucks eye test. We are going to see right here, right now, if they are a legitimate title contender. And this is a tough one because this could go either way. Milwaukee could be the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I said it. And again, people are forgetting about the Milwaukee Bucks. And I think they're going to surprise some people this year. I really do. So I'm going to say over because I think Doc Rivers is going to figure it out. I think the sports books, I think everybody's forgetting about Giannis, his dominance, Damian Lillard coming back for a full season. I think Doc Rivers will figure it out. And if not, his job may be on the line. So there's a lot of pressure on Milwaukee to get it done now because it's been 4 years since Milwaukee won a title. Giannis wants more. Giannis wants to build his legacy. So what is next for this Milwaukee Bucks team? That is to find out. But for now, I think they're going to have a great season. I think Bobby Portis, along with the others, Gary Trent Jr. off the bench, DeLon Wright, an underrated pickup as well for the Bucks. I think their bench is a little bit better. Brook Lopez hopefully has a good season. I don't think he will. And I think he'll regress a little bit. Maybe they look to explore trades with him at the deadline if things don't go well early. But people are really just forgetting about how talented this overall roster is. I didn't even mention Chris Middleton. And if he can get healthy, we've seen the elite level scoring that he can provide for the Bucks as well. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I do have the Milwaukee Bucks over. Next, we're going to transition to the Atlantic Division. The Brooklyn Nets are the projected worst team in that division. They are projected only 19.5 wins. That may be the worst in the Eastern Conference, if I'm not mistaken. The Nets got, I think, around the low 30 win total last year. I'll have to check and confirm that. They got 32 wins last year. Now they are projected to take a major decline after trading Mikal Bridges to the New York Knicks. The Nets now don't really have a lot of great players on their team. Their best player may be Cameron Johnson or Nick Claxton, and that's just telling you a lot. It's going to be hard for the Brooklyn Nets to win even a decent amount of games, and I just don't know because the total is just so low. If I had to pick, I would say maybe under because there's always one team that's going to get under 20 wins in a season, and it may be the Brooklyn Nets this year. They may be the worst team, but it is definitely a tough one. You got Ben Simmons sitting on that bench. I don't know what he's up to. Bogdanovich, who they got in the Bridges trade, the Bojan Bogdanovich, not Bogdan, who is with the Atlanta Hawks. Is Nick Claxton going to have a career year? That may dictate this over-under win total. I'm going to say no. And Brooklyn could potentially trade Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, along with others at the trade deadline as well. So this may be a really long season for Brooklyn and their fan base. So I'm going to go under with the Brooklyn Nets. Next team is the Toronto Raptors at 30.5 wins. Now, Toronto was in a little bit of an interesting situation because I can't really tell if they're going to be that good because they finished off last season not that great. They only got 25 wins in the entire season. They finished off the season with going 2-8. They really had a terrible second half of the regular season, but I did pick the Atlanta Hawks and the Chicago Bulls under. And I did that for a specific reason because I think the East is getting better. I think there's two better teams that could fit in there. And I think Toronto may be one of those teams, which is why I'm going to take the over on the Toronto Raptors, and I think they can get the 35, 36 wins, get one of those play-in spots. I think Emmanuel quickly is set to be a career year. Don't be surprised if he wins Most Improved Player this season. RJ Barrett has a lot of motivation coming from New York. Now he gets his first full year on his hometown team. Scotty Barnes is only going to get better. The bench is young. Davion Mitchell, Jacoby Walter, Ochai Agbaji. Somebody's going to break out from one of those three. Toronto is a young team, and they are going to get better. I really liked what they did getting assets for the future, and I think Toronto's going to compete. Expect Toronto to be in the mix for one of those final play-in spots, and I think they will get it. I think they're going to get it, which is why I'm going to pick Toronto over for that sole reason. Do I think they have a lot of work to do? Do I think their team's that great? Not really. But there's going to be some teams that are going to have to fill in, which what I think are Atlanta and Chicago downfalling and spiraling downwards in the Eastern Conference. So if I had to pick one of those two teams, I might think Toronto may be up for the task to get one of those spots. So I'm going to say Toronto over. And now, here we go. The final three teams. I think you can probably already suspect what these three teams' win totals are. That's how these teams are probably shaping out this season. And Philadelphia probably made the biggest move of the offseason, acquiring Paul George. They also brought in Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond. They drafted Jared McCann, traded for Reggie Jackson, re-signed Kyle Lowry, Kelly Oubre, Eric Gordon was signed as well in free agency. Philadelphia now has their best team in a long, long time. This is one of Joel Embiid's best, if not the best team he has ever been a part of. And there was high expectations for the 76ers. I don't think any player is under more pressure this year maybe than Joel Embiid. He's got to get it done. He hasn't made a conference finals. Can he at least do that? He's had chances. He has had some chances, and he could not get it done yet. And now you have Tyrese Maxey and Paul George as your number 3 and number 2 options, respectfully. You got to get it done. And this team's built for it. Caleb Martin, on a major pay cut, Philadelphia got him for. Kyle Lowry is a veteran, a contender veteran, someone who likes to be on contending teams, someone who is a hard-nosed player, a perfect point guard for a contending team. Eric Gordon, a great shooter for a contending team. Andre Drummond, a decent backup center for Joel Embiid. This team is ready to win. And I'm going to go over. Because if not this year, when for Philadelphia? When? I think Joel Embiid knows it. And if we really think Joel Embiid is that great, which I do, you may not. I think Joel Embiid has the talent. If you think so, you would be picking over on this because this is a prove it or lose it season for Philadelphia. Unless they have some injury, which is, of course, an exception. That's an exception for all the over-unders. Injuries do happen. But if Philadelphia is relatively healthy, Embiid, George only miss around 10 games each, this team should get at least 55 wins, if not more, because this team is talented and this team has got a chance to win an NBA title this season. I really do believe that. So I'm going to take Philadelphia over. Next is the New York Knicks, 53.5 wins. They are projected to finish second in the Eastern Conference and second in this Atlantic Division. And the New York Knicks, of course, made the big splash getting Mikal Bridges. Now they have their whole team back here with Julius Randle getting healthy, Dante DiVincenzo back in the mix off the bench, OG Anunoby getting healthy, Brunson recovering from his broken hand, and this Knicks starting lineup is loaded. Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, Randall Robinson. Off the bench, the Knicks got McBride, DiVincenzo, Hart, Achua. This Knicks team is the best it's ever been as well. But I'm going to take the under for the New York Knicks. And trust me, this one is a little bit scary. If I had to pick, I would probably not bet this win total because this could go either way. But I feel like the Knicks are a team that has been competitive in the regular season for many years. But maybe this is the year where maybe they get an injury, maybe some other teams like the Magic play a little bit better in the regular season. I think the Knicks will be a huge threat in the postseason, but I think Boston and Philadelphia are the better teams. I really do. And I think the Knicks struggle on the road. They're not a very good road team in particular. And they're going to lose some games that they're probably not supposed to on the road. So I'm going to say that the New York Knicks are going to go under. And I think people are just a little bit overhyping the Mikal Bridges acquisition. He was great with Brooklyn, but that was because he was the number one option. Again, you got to remember, Bridges may be the number 3 or even number 4 option on this team. So it's a little bit of a different situation. But I'm not as high on the Knicks as people think, at least not in the regular season. And last but not least, the defending NBA champions, the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics are projected a league high 58.5 wins, almost 60 wins. That's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to breathe because they did get 64 wins last year. And they are running it back. Tatum signed his extension. Holiday's here long term. Derek White signed a extension as well. Sam Hauser signed an extension. This team is running it back. Same guys, same starting 5, same bench. But there is a but. I think people are forgetting about Kristaps Porzingis' injury. He's going to be out the first half of the year. That's a tough one. That's a tough injury to handle. And I think Boston now, as the defending NBA champions, are not going to be hunting. They're going to be the hunted. People are going to circle the Celtics on the calendar. They are. So it's going to be much harder for them to win, especially in the regular season. Everyone's going to know, oh, the champs are coming to town. Let's play our A game. Let's play our best game possible. So I think the Celtics are going to struggle a little bit. Obviously, I still think they'll get the 1 seed. But I don't think 58.5 wins, 59 wins is something that is achievable for them this year. It'll be close, 56, 55, but I think with Porzingis being out, them being a little bit more hunted than they are the hunters, I think they'll have a couple of losses that maybe people thought they shouldn't have had, which is why I'm going to take the under on the Boston Celtics. And that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for at least listening, if you're a LeBron fan, to Michael Jordan being the GOAT. That is it for me for this week. Again, follow me on Instagram at take_your_shot_podcast_ and tell me how you would have taken your shots on my takes. That's all my shots for the week, folks. I will see you next week as we continue with 50 days to go until the start of the NBA regular season. That's it, and I will see you then.